This skinny Muay Thai fighter is about to get ragdolled by a type of martial artist we've never seen in the cage before.
Skinny Muay Thai. They gotta be.
I'd never been asked a question like that. What's your martial art? And I just said, well,
Is that Don? Is that man Don Fry? I ain't gonna lie, Don Fry one of the ones, man. Mythical.
Wrestler.
Hi, my name's Dan Severn. I'm a freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestler. When I step into the octagon, it's a good thing there's a 6-foot fence because my opponent will be trying to escape.
They kind of look both ways. They kind of lean forward and they
He
said,
talking crazy.
what exactly does that do?
The rules: no biting, no eye gouging. All other blows are legal. No rounds, no time limit, no way out.
I kind of look
Don
both ways.
Fry.
I lean forward. I go, you might want to watch. I'm kind of making this up as I go.
They did not realize what I brought to the table. I am the first world-class wrestler ever to step into that octagon.
Like boxers in there, kickboxers, shoot fighters, but you never had college wrestler, an international style wrestler.
So he the first
I
one.
was a last-minute fill-in. I trained for all of 5 days, and I walked into the world of no holds barred, and I stood it on its ear.
Both in the black trunks, mustache to Severn. Muay Thai against wrestling.
Going up against a Muay Thai fighter, I simply knew that I'm going to be looking out for elbows and knees.
There's the double. Severn taking some shots. Oh, he's taking a lot of shots.
He threw a lot of elbows. I ate a lot of elbows. I was able to get behind him, and I went for what known as a
Did he elbow him in the back of his head?
elbow. I ate a lot of elbows. I was able to get behind him, and I went for what known as a belly-to-back suplex.
Now backflip by Severn.
I ain't gonna lie, I hate the UFC, bro. Why y'all be copyrighting these videos, bro? Why did I just want to see this whole fight. I want to see this.
I've never seen another man pick up a man and basically launch him. He came back up to the same position again. I'm thinking to myself, you think that first one hurt? Wait until you feel this one.
Do it again if you see it steps up too hard. Wow.
Fatality.
He said, wait till you see that second one, bruh.
Until you feel this one.
Do it again if you see it
That
steps
second one
up
hurt.
too hard.
Yeah, that one hurt.
I don't know why Severn isn't doing anything here to try to put blows to the head of Macias.
Here was Dan Severn showing us wrestlers, they're killers.
I was a one-trick pony, but I knew how to use my skill set.
He was trying to pop his head, crush his skull.
Now Severn's got an arm under the chin.
Why he ain't punch on him?
Severn is on to the semifinals.
As soon as the match is done, all attention now goes to round number 2. For someone that put in such a little effort in their preparation, I think I made my mark quite well.
Anyone who saw that said, I want to see more of this Dan Severn guy. Gracie's nice, but this guy lives up to his nickname. This guy is the beast.
Okay, this mustachioed gentleman just walked into UFC 4 and obliterated his opponent with pure American wrestling, and now he's on to his second fight of the night. He doesn't know it yet, but by the end of the night, he'll become one of the most popular fighters in the world, kickstarting one of the most legendary careers in combat sports and cementing a legacy for an entire martial art. But first, who the hell is this guy?
Hey, y'all already know what to do, man. Like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate everybody who support. Let me know in the comments who to react to next, but y'all been telling me to react to Dan. I just never got to it. Now we here. But, bro, why nobody know how to do grind and pound back then, bro? Just hit him in the face.
UFC stuff like this. If you want to see me at the peak of my career, you should have seen me back from that 1984, 1986 period of time. I ruled the world. I was a 3-time All-American, won 2 state titles. My last 2 years, 100-0. And I set and held 8 national records simultaneously, which nobody has ever held before, nor has since. I have just shy of 100 state, national, international records and/or title.
Dan Severn had world-class wrestling credentials and accolades, which kind of makes sense when you understand his humble beginnings.
Dan Severn cut from a different cloth from a lot of people.
Growing up and living a life kind of like Tom Sawyer, I mean, 120-acre farm, hunting whenever you wanted to, fishing whenever you wanted to, and lots of work always to do.
On a farm, you become physically strong. You're in shape. He had better cardio than everyone, and he wasn't afraid of hard work. He had a work ethic that was second to none.
Growing up on a farm in Michigan with 7 siblings,
no, he was getting the ladies.
And his entire family, that hard-nosed work ethic you
Look at that hair.
as a wrestler. You should know that all of the Severn brothers went to college on full wrestling scholarships, and Dan himself was inducted into the ASU Hall of Fame. Wrestling was in Dan's blood. so it only made sense that Dan would want to take his skills to the Olympic level.
Part of my life when I was representing the United States, probably the best time of my life, it was to be able to climb up at the top of that podium, to have my country's flag raised, and to play in my national anthem.
Unfortunately for Dan, his Olympic aspirations in 1984 didn't pan out as intended. You see, at the 1984 Olympic trials, Dan lost a highly controversial match to the eventual gold medal winner, Lou Banach. So effectively, Dan was robbed of his opportunity to become an Olympic gold medalist.
You and I would not even be talking today had everything gone the way it should have gone for me in my amateur wrestling career. No one would have never known of Dan Severn today. I would have retired back in 1984 as the Olympic gold medalist. That actually was my goal, but it did not work out quite that way.
Damn.
So what do you do after that? Dan Severn didn't have
He's gonna
anything
retire?
after that. He wanted to have something to say, this is my legacy.
Being denied something and that's so close, that motivated me from that point on to pursue other endeavors. I won't be denied. And so when people say, aren't you nervous when you climb into a cage? I go, nope. What can that man do to me that had done to me worse?
It's unfortunate that Dan couldn't reach the absolute pinnacle of the sport that he dedicated his life to.
I want to see that
But
fight.
the funny thing about life is that sometimes it throws you curveballs. And those curveballs sometimes enable you to build a legacy greater than you could have ever imagined.
A friend of mine happened to watch the first two UFCs. He recorded them on an old VHS tape and he showed it to me and says, hey, you gotta think about doing this stuff. I'm seeing people being soccer kicked in the face. Teeth are flying out. I look at him and go, you know, these are not exactly skills that I possess. But he says, hey, look at this skinny little guy doing jiu-jitsu. Of course, he was referring to Royce Gracie. Never really had been exposed to jiu-jitsu before. I said, well, it kind of looks like wrestling to me. I said, we filled out an application, sent that on in. Well, I was still involved in my professional wrestling career. Matchmaker Art Davey came to see me in a professional wrestling match. And then he conducted his personal interview afterwards. The first things he said to me was, you do realize what we do is real, don't you? I said, yes, I do. And then he's like, what is your professional fight record? Well, I don't have one. What's your amateur fight record? Well, I don't have one of those either. And then he's kind of like, almost like talking down to me, going, well, what are your skills? I thought I'd been an amateur wrestler at that time for 26 years.
I had booked Dan Severn with the idea of bringing in a really competitive heavyweight wrestler, somebody who had competed at the Olympic level.
My mixed martial arts career started at age 34. I only had time to actually do
34
training camp, an hour and a half a day. I never told my family members.
They had no idea that you were participating?
No, not even my wife. I told not a single family member because I did not wish my parents to get nervous.
So it will now be in our other semifinal. Marcus the Grasshopper Bossett against
He's
Daniel
260.
UFC number 4 was an 8-man tournament. You had to face and defeat 3 opponents. For my second fight, I went up against Marcus Bossett.
29-year-old Marcus Bossett holds a third-degree black belt in Shorin-ryu karate. He considers himself a traditional karate man.
People are drawn by violence. I don't know why, but they are. It's quite the attraction where people will gather just to watch a good old-fashioned ass kicking. Marcus Bossett served up a heaping helping of soul food. Yes, he did. I took a nice boot to the rib cage, and I did not want to have the next one. And was able to secure my second submission. Now I think they refer to it as the arm triangle, but to me it's like an amateur wrestling technique done illegally, still utilizing the mechanics of leverage.
He's really trying to choke now. That's it, he's got him.
What a move by Dan Severn, and it didn't take him long.
What he was doing in 2 fights, he was becoming a very dangerous man in the space of 90 minutes.
Match number 2 is done. Now my thoughts are going to match number 3.
Boy, this is going to set up a final.
A fantastic
The legend.
final between Royce Gracie
Royce
and
Gracie.
Dan Severn.
At that time, Royce Gracie was the superstar of the UFC.
He was.
And you actually fought him in the finals of UFC 4.
What does that mean to me? Someone that's got 2 arms, 2 legs, and we have unlimited time?
Okay, that is a lot to take in. Dan Severn is now in the finals of UFC 4 against Royce Gracie. Look, if you're watching this video, you probably know who Royce Gracie is. But if not, check out my documentary.
We just
on
watched this video.
But the short of it
Know what I'm
is,
saying?
Royce Gracie is the jiu-jitsu
Shout
legend
out
who
to
already
Royce.
won both UFC
Straight
1
legend.
and UFC 2, all while significantly undersized. So, for all intents and purposes, Dan was about to fight the best fighter in the world.
What was it like to fight Royce Gracie during that era?
2-time Ultimate Fighting Champion, Royce Gracie.
Just looked like an athlete.
Yeah.
Just like a thin, he was 175 pounds.
I really didn't know how I was truly going to fare.
Dan Severn, that's a big guy that knows how to use his weight.
The beast, wrestler. Everybody was thinking I was out, I was done.
Top of the food chain in wrestling at the time.
First time in the finals of Ultimate Fighting Championships, Daniel Severn.
I just kept thinking, well, him being a grappler, maybe in a grappler base, I'm thinking, well, worst case scenario, I'm not going to get beat up too badly.
Takedown probably happened quite quickly.
Severn diving in and grabbing the leg of Gracie, and he's got control.
Boom, took a man down. I'm in his guard. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Here's this wrestler manhandling the guy who's supposed to keep Gracie Jiu-Jitsu on the top of the heap.
As the match progressed, that's where the grappling struggle begins.
I'm trying to do compression submissions. I'm using my chin and I'm pushing it right down into his face. I'm thinking, that's gotta hurt.
He might be getting choked right here. Severn has it pretty tight. He might have a shot at choking out Royce Gracie.
I'm not showing any emotion, stuff like that. Not tapping out.
You're just trying to put pressure. Okay, I'll take it, no problem.
Something else I'm surprised at is Severn has not yet tried a headbutt. And he
or
has
hit
opportunities instinctively right now. He's not thinking of that.
In my mind, I'm thinking,
I think I'm gonna have to hit this guy.
But he has not done anything to deserve that. A lot of people realize, I'm going against 26 years of rules and regulations and sportsmanlike conduct here going through my mind. And that's why I tell people that I really struggled with my conscience.
Oh, he was so stuck on the wrestling. Understandable though. He was in it for like almost 30 years. He was like, I'm not supposed to hit him. I'm not supposed to. Yes, you are. You're supposed to knock him out.
Could have been over in 6 minutes, but this is not in this guy's DNA to punch somebody unless he had a good reason.
When I finally decided, okay, I'm gonna strike him, I struck him peripheral to a side. It's kind of like I'm going, poof.
Severn pounding away with the combination.
I'm not really throwing anything dead center. That I could not do.
Couple of punches there by Severn.
Damn.
And those hurt. Those are
good
shots,
guy.
and they're hitting cleanly into the ribs.
You're a great guy.
The Royce Gracie fight, you were mauling him pretty much.
Threw Royce around for 15 minutes.
I just don't feel Gracie is going to have the kind of ability to escape a wrestler when he's in this dominant a position.
How long can Gracie endure?
There's no way he was gonna finish me. And he knew that. His face told me that.
Perfect example of playing defense.
Does Gracie have what it takes to mount any type of quick reversal?
I don't think it's going to happen.
I'm piercing his soul. I can read exactly what's going through his mind. He's looking over at his dad. I actually looked over at Healer Gracie outside the cage wall.
And I've got to believe Royce is starting to get tired. I have to feel that Severn is going to outlast Gracie.
He's like, Dad, I'm hanging in there.
But if you were to throw that towel in, I wouldn't hold it against you.
That thought never crossed my mind. Never.
Gracie, for the most part, being neutralized by Severn.
Helio, he's got the towel in his hands. He brings the towel on up, crosses his arms, and holds right this, and just shakes his head like, no. And I'm thinking to myself, you old bastard.
You'd let me kill you out here for Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, wouldn't you?
Gracie maneuvering, whatever he can do to stay in it.
He finally made a mistake, and I caught him in a choke.
If you look at it, like the space where he had Dan's head and arm is like that big. When you do a triangle like this, that's not a very big space.
I didn't want to hurt this guy. I thought, it's a good time. I'll just tap, and I'll let him be victorious.
That's it. Oh! He choked him out.
Let him be victorious. What is going on here, man? I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's like he was. I don't know, bro. It just seemed just a little odd. But hey, who am I?
What?
I'm a youngin'. I don't know.
He embraced me and he said, you're the toughest man I ever went against.
In my mind, I'm thinking, you haven't seen nothing yet.
The Gracies won, but I don't think anyone left the arena that night and said, well, that's the end of that Severn guy.
Did Royce Gracie really beat me? I tapped. Sure, I tapped. But did Royce Gracie beat me, or did I tap because I was unwilling to do what I had to do to another human being that night?
There's only one guy that knows what went down in that cage, and that's me. Royce doesn't even know what I did.
I know what I'm capable of doing, and I should have turned that man into a pile of kindling wood. Because of what I know now, I wish I would have known then. That's the only match that haunts me, because I wonder, where would Gracie Jiu-Jitsu be today had I done what I am capable of doing? We wouldn't be having this conversation. I would not have these internal struggles that I'm having.
If he fights Royce Gracie a second time, he beats him.
I did what I did at the time because I thought it was the right thing to do, and I'll simply have to live with it.
Dan Severn.
You thought it was the right thing to do? You supposed to put hands and feet on Royce Gracie. What's going on?
To Royce Gracie after a grueling 15-minute match, the longest match ever at that point, shook the entire combat sports world. Everyone thought that Dan Severn could have been the one to dethrone Royce Gracie. But if it's any consolation to Dan or his conscience, this wasn't the end of the road for the Beast. because in just 4 months, there was a brand new tournament. And there's a reason UFC 5 is called Return of the Beast.
In UFC 5, I took out 32 days of my life. I did my very first true training camp. I left my family. I did not want to be a father. I did not want to be a husband. I lived like an animal. I trained like an animal. Thus, Jim Brown gave me an animal's name, the Beast. I was so desensitized because I prepared to do what I had to do.
Jim Brown. He said Jim Brown gave him that name.
Gracie in the finals of UFC 4. But Severn returns here in UFC 5 with a vengeance. His first bout will be the ghetto man, Joe Charles.
Hi, I'm Joe Charles. I was raised in the streets, and I know what it's like to fight.
UFC 5 should have been actually my first tournament. Should have been my first showing.
With no Royce Gracie in the competition, can anyone stop this man?
What I showed you before was an untrained Dan Severn struggling with a conscience, and now I don't have a conscience.
Dan Severn is no doubt the favorite in UFC 5.
As we came towards each other, it did not slow down. I hit him with what's known as a high double A.
And immediately Severn grabs the leg and nails Charles into the side of the octagon.
Time to finish this match as quickly, as violently as I can.
Severn with a knee to the face of Joe Charles. And Charles hanging tough.
Everyone saw old dude Dan Severn, big hammering clubs.
Severn with a big elbow.
He wasn't going anywhere. He was all mine.
Charles up against the octagon. Severn, it's a choke. It's a choke and it's a...
He was mauling, buddy. He was all over him. I'm talking about mauling him. He was really like an animal. Like, you couldn't even get him off. Bro, I ain't gonna lie, bro. If he'd have came in there against Royce Gracie, I don't know. He a mauler, bro.
I think that's kind of where
he
I
could be before
the
Khabib.
fans and letting them know that this is my territory, this is my cage. I'm the Beast.
Okay, this is not the same guy from a few months back. This guy is a different animal. But remember, he's got 2 more fights to go. And how does a Beast fare against a Russian bear?
Daniel Severn coming up next against
the real Russian bear?
Russian bear Tektarov. It will be a war.
In the semifinals, I faced the toughest guy in the tournament, Oleg Tektarov.
My name is Oleg Tektarov. I'm from Russia. I'm
from Russia.
And 5 times jiu-jitsu champion. It's my first time in America.
With an undefeated record in the past decade. Hi, I'm Dan Severn. I held back in UFC 4, but tonight, when that gate shuts, I'm going to turn the Beast
see, I held
loose.
back.
I simply do it.
Why
I have
though?
to half kill a man in order to beat him.
Here we go. This should be a great match. 2 guys who love to grapple.
I did take Oleg down, kind of with a snap down, a little bit of a cradle.
Severn goes in first, and he knees Tektarov to the face.
I threw the first knee, and I knew that it definitely got his attention.
And he is letting it all hang out.
My body was positioned above his head, and I thought, why not just drop a knee on his forehead?
A knee to the head by Daniel Severn.
Boom. I dropped the first knee. He's still fighting. I did it the nice way. I drove my point home the second time. I dropped a much harder one.
Another knee.
Oh!
He's bleeding bad. He's bleeding really bad. Those knees have opened up a pretty good wound.
So much blood has flowed off of his forehead, it filled up his 2 eye wells. He couldn't see. The conscience comes into play here again. I'm like going, and I'm desensitized. I dropped the next one.
Another knee by Severn.
Just crossed my mind like a flash. Drop a knee now. Drop a knee now. 3 times I actually stop and I look up at Big John McCarthy like, why is this match continuing?
Oh, and he's even cut on the back of the head pretty bad.
Big John McCarthy wants a closer look.
I'm not sure.
I think it's over.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie, bro. He held back, bro. Something ain't right. He got paid a pretty penny. Now, let me stop. I ain't gonna say that. I ain't gonna say that. I ain't gonna put that on Gracie's name. I ain't gonna do it. But hit that man with violent knees.
The crowd's going crazy. You people came here to see blood. Well, by God, you got it.
Really, there was no turning back for him because people were always going to pay to watch him fight that.
I'm in the finals now. I'm not going to be the same guy I was in my last finals.
Dan Severn brutalizing the legendary Oleg Tektarov to earn a TKO victory and punch his ticket to the finals of UFC 5 was pure savagery. Now, all that was left for Dan Severn to do was reach out and finally claim his gold.
In the 3rd and final match, I was now up against amateur wrestler, boxer Dave Benito.
Keep in mind that Dave Benito had just finished his previous 2 opponents in less than 3 minutes combined.
Hi, I'm Dave Beneteau from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. I have an extensive background in judo and wrestling, but I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody who wants to exchange punches.
Beneteau was a tough guy, but he just wasn't in the same league with Severn. That night, I think he could have put anyone in with Severn, and he would have won the fight.
The biggest thing I was probably concerned about Dave Beneteau is what is his striking ability, and I'm not going to try to find out.
They're spending a lot of energy here tying up with each other.
I was able to take him down.
He got the leg of Beneteau and immediately goes to work punching the head.
Drop him, basically finish him with a keel out.
He got him in a submission. He got him in a submission.
Won UFC 5 after losing in the final.
Did he get him with?
He came back as a beast and he won the title.
And I'm now the champion. My very first championship title.
Shortest tournament victory I ever won. Took care of 3 men in the shortest time they had ever seen.
The harder part was going back home and trying to become a different person once again.
Dan Severn redeeming his UFC 4 performance by walking through everyone 4 months later to become the UFC 5 tournament champion is nothing short of awe-inspiring. Good old Dan finally got his gold. But remember, Dan really wanted to cement his legacy in sports. One belt wasn't going to cut it.
Here we go. UFC 6 super fight.
For UFC 6, I faced Ken Shamrock.
Ken Shamrock
is one of the most popular and respected fighters in the octagon.
Okay, so this needs an extra.
Y'all don't like Ken Shamrock. What I've noticed in my comments, y'all call Ken. Y'all like Ken. What's wrong with Ken? Like, why y'all hate Ken for?
Was a ceremonial kind of title that the UFC made to essentially have the best fighters in the world compete in a main event. Shamrock had previously went to a draw against Gracie for the super fight title at UFC 5, so there wasn't yet a clear super fight champion. Shamrock is of course one of the all-time legends of MMA, so if Severn could beat Shamrock for the super fight title, a completely different, more prestigious title within the UFC, then Severn couldn't really be denied.
Ken Shamrock was the prototype mixed martial artist. He fought around the world.
I've heard all the hype. I've seen all the press. It's time to step into the octagon to see if Shamrock can't tame Dan the Beast Severn.
I'm actually I'm sick. I'm underneath the weather. Did not feel real good about that match whatsoever.
Who will make the first effective move? They can grapple for as long as 35 minutes. I don't expect it to go that long.
Ken Shamrock had a tactical advantage, a technique advantage.
That's a choke. That's a choke. Severn got out of it.
He wasn't going to out-wrestle Dan Severn, but he was able to outthink him that night.
Shamrock doing a nice job here. He's going for the choke again.
It was a short-lived match. I basically get caught in a front guillotine choke and had
to
dance.
Dan Severn falling short against Ken Shamrock for the UFC super fight title was a devastating blow. It sucked all of the wind out of his victory at UFC 5. So now Dan had a choice to make. The very same choice he had to make at the Olympics. Do you just lay down and cry and give up? Or do you dust yourself off and come back stronger?
Severn takes all this in, says, okay, now I have to take it to the next level to beat the best guys who are doing this. I have to become a mixed martial artist.
There you have it. Dan Severn will not be denied. He is ready, willing, and able to prove himself in that octagon. And wouldn't you know it, 5 months from now, the UFC is putting together a brand new kind of tournament, an Ultimate. That's a brand new type of shiny gold championship with the Beast's name on it. But before we get to the Ultimate, if you got this far, you might as well hit subscribe.
Y'all know we already subscribed, man. We already know what's up.
B5.
Welcome to 8 fighters, 4 former UFC.
Ultimate. Comments. B5.
Welcome to the Ultimate. 8 fighters, 4 former UFC champions, 3 former UFC runner-ups. This is the culmination of 2 years in the making.
His first opponent was Paul Varelans.
Who was what, 6'8",
Paul
6'9"?
He had been able to physically dominate most of the guys he fought. Now he was in against someone he would have to outthink. He would have to beat him with technique.
I just drop on down, hit him with my shoulder, and he basically topples over.
He took the polar bear right down, chopped him down like a tree. Now looking for a chokehold.
What they want to call a triangle choke, arm choke, and I simply just started to squeeze harder and harder and harder until I finally felt.
Oh, that's a Doris, ain't it? They call it a Doris now, don't it? Or not the Doris. Fuck, I'm tripping. It is Doris. Or the arm triangle. Wow, what is it? The arm triangle?
The polar bear taps out and the beast loves it.
The beast is back.
I never struck him, but he had blood coming out of his nose. I was squeezing pretty freaking hard.
He proved that he was a better mixed martial artist, and that was an important fight for him.
Good old Dan Severn blasted through the polar bear in less than 2 minutes without throwing a strike. But unfortunately for Dan's next opponent, I can't say the same thing about his next match.
Oh, what a battle it is. The Tank against
Tank
Dan
Abbott.
Severn. Two guys with a very ferocious approach to fighting.
My second fight of the night
The legend. Tank. I don't remember him fighting Dan. He fought
was
Dan.
against Tank Abbott.
Tank was the anti-Dan Severn.
Tank Abbott was definitely was a bad boy of the sport.
He was a very not so nice man.
Someone I honestly do not like.
Tank was the villain. He had established that role in all of his fights prior to that.
I watched Tank Abbott knock out a sumo.
He knocks out with one punch, and the guy's laying there. And while he laid there helpless like that, Tank Abbott had the audacity to drop down and actually strike him again. And when I saw that, I was like,
"You son of a bitch!"
Yeah, Tank Abbott different. I did a Tank Abbott vid. If y'all didn't see it, go watch that after this video.
I can't believe what you just did. I go, how can you call yourself a martial artist or any type of person like that?
if I should ever get you inside the octagon cage,
Ooh, I will treat him in a way that I have never treated any other fighter.
I'm a nice guy, but I'm a very serious competitor.
I was not going to give that man any opportunity because I know that if I give him an opportunity, he'll capitalize on that.
Severn can dominate. He won't have to deal with those punches of Dave Abbott.
He actually sprawled, threw a knee up, and actually caught me in the face with the knee.
Oh, knee to the head.
Then I took him down, and I welcomed him to my world.
This was Dan Severn at his most beast-like.
Now the right hand begins to land.
He was mauling everybody.
I think it's
Everybody get mauled.
with a number of strikes on the ground.
Tank absorbing punishment, stuck on the ground.
Never did deal 12 to 6 to anybody else. But Tank Abbott, he deserved it.
Elbow to the head of Abbott again.
With my right arm, till my right arm got tired, then I would go to my left arm. As I could start knee and knee.
Knees to the head by Severn.
When those got tired,
I want to
basically
rearrange
started
his
the cycle
face.
over again and punish him that much more.
Tank only hit me 3 times in the course of a 20-minute match.
Some guy counted up, he goes, "You hit Tank Abbott with 276 right elbow strikes alone."
Another elbow.
Bring me your little chicken. I want to rearrange his face.
Another elbow.
Bro, he really mauling people, bro.
Again to the head.
At the time, that match was declared the most brutal match ever in the history of the UFC. Could I finish him? Probably, but I think I did what was probably the
He didn't
most
wanna
cruel
finish
thing
him.
to him I could do.
He didn't want to finish him. Damn, that's crazy.
Clock is over, and there's the decision. It's unanimous for Severn.
I'm sure he smiled after that fight and said, "Yeah, I got one for the good guys."
That's done. Now I'm going to who I'd be facing in the final.
Dan Severn completely embarrassed Tank Abbott in a very dominant showing. It wasn't even close. But now, after a grueling 18-minute match, Dan still had one more fight to go. And it was a rematch against another legend.
It will be a rematch between Daniel the Beast Severn and Oleg Taktarov.
Now I have to prepare myself, knowing that that second time he's going to be a little more aware, a little bit more savvy.
It's the U.S. against Russia. Here we go, finals of the ultimate.
I am going to have to impose my will upon him, and I might have to kill him again in the process.
You should know that Taktarov was fresh off a tournament victory at UFC 6, a draw against Ken Shamrock for the super fight title at UFC 7, and he just beat both Dave Benito and UFC 7 winner Marco Huas to earn a spot against Dan Severn in the finals. This version of Taktarov was very dangerous, and early on, he had Dan in lots of trouble.
Knee ball, here it is, right there, it's over. He's got it, he's finishing it right here. He's done.
He caught me in a leg lock. I thought my goose was cooked.
Dan's trying to work himself out of it.
He's got an Achilles hold right now.
But because of my preparation, I knew the moment that someone was closing in something, I had to keep moving, and I was able to escape.
Oh, Dan, nice move. Whoa, how'd he get out of that?
He got out.
And from that point on, I continued to rain strikes.
Here are those headbutts by Dan Severn to the face of Taktarov.
In the course of 30 minutes, I struck Oleg with over 300 headbutts.
Oleg is a bloody mess in the bottom.
What?
And Severn continues to headbutt.
If they get back on their feet, Oleg will be blind.
Stay active.
Damn.
Do what you're doing. This is yours to win.
And this one will be in the hands of the judges. Winner of the ultimate unanimous decision.
To have been out there with
best of the best. I was actually very happy with my achievement.
He did it. Dan Severn won an Ultimate Championship, putting him in an elite class of fighter with 2 different kinds of tournament title victories. This set Dan up for some very, very big things ahead. But if you noticed, after he defeated Takhtarov, Dan embraced a very special friend.
How is Dan doing?
Dan's doing
Don
great.
Fry.
Dan's amazing, man.
Who has the better mustache?
I give it to Don because Don has a much more bigger, bolder
Yeah, Don.
mustache than what I have. I may not be as young, as youthful, and bigger, bolder, but at least I had the first one to step inside that octagon cage with the stash. I've known Don for many years.
Them are some great stashes, though. I'm talking about hell of them over stashes, man. Legendary. Them stashes should be in the Hall of Fame. No doubt.
No Don like a brother.
That is, of course, UFC legend Don Fry. And if you don't know who Don Fry is,
we know who Don Fry. Stop it. Come on, man.
Don Fry.
Kids,
But the reason Don comes
watch
into the
Don
story
Fry.
here is because Dan and Don are actually close friends from Severn's days as Fry's wrestling coach. So in between Ultimate and Severn's
He was his
next
wrestling
fight,
coach?
Dan became the reason the world got introduced to Don Fry.
I said, this UFC stuff, can you get me in on it? And he says, yeah.
He just beat on me for 6 weeks.
Yo, I did not know that. That's hard. Shout out to Dan, man. He got the GOAT inside the UFC. That's hard.
You know, I mean, getting ready for Ultimate 1, you know, he used me as a human basketball.
When he wanted to get involved in the Ultimate Fighting Championships, I knew he would do well because he has a boneheaded determination. I helped Don get his foot in the door. He's the one who kicked that door wide open, and he made his own name for himself.
These two were a formidable and dynamic duo for the no-holds-barred era of fighting. And despite their almost cartoonish portrayal of being manly men, I find their long-standing friendship makes me all warm and fuzzy inside.
I try to converse with Don on a very regular basis. I mean, I try to touch a base with Don 2-3 times a week, if not more. I know it's good to keep Don Fry
That's
busy.
hard.
Otherwise, he might get himself into a little bit of mischief.
You guys have a podcast coming out.
That's hard.
Dan and Don's Toxic
Oh, man.
Masculinity podcast.
Oh, yeah, I'm watching that. I definitely got tuned in for an episode at least. I didn't know that. Nobody said this in the comments, man. Y'all must didn't know this either. What going on?
That's the name of it.
That's the name of it, yes, sir. I'm the man of men, and he's a man of men junior, you know?
While Dan was helping Don establish himself in the sport,
That's
Severn
hard. I
was
love
actually
that.
approaching a very important fight for himself.
Presenting UFC 9 and the bout you've been waiting for, the Clash of the Titans.
Dan Severn, he's coming back a second time. You know he's not going to make the same mistakes. I know I'm in for a formidable fight.
That's right, Dan Severn versus Ken Shamrock 2, once again for the UFC
Yeah.
Super Fight Championship. This was the moment for Dan Severn to redeem himself.
24-minute time limit with 2 3-minute overtime. 30 possible minutes.
I'm on top of the mountain after the ultimate, and I have a point to prove because I don't like to lose.
Shamrock and
I don't like to
Severn,
lose.
rematch of UFC 6.
Against Ken Shamrock.
Look at Ken Shamrock's body.
Wasn't going to
You see Ken Shamrock? What Ken Shamrock on steroids or not? See, I ain't watched Cam Shamrock yet, so I ain't putting it on his name. I see he won the legend, so I can't put no dirt on his name. Look at his body. How do you even look like that? Bro. Bruh.
against Ken Shamrock, who already beat him. He wasn't going to lose twice to this guy.
I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that due to political pressure, there was a very strange and sudden rule change to UFC 9.
When Dan fought Ken Shamrock, they were told before the event that they can't punch with closed fists.
UFC 9, yeah.
Oh, okay. Everybody was going, what the fuck is going on?
Oh, what is it? What? What is this?
So you combine a strange rule set with a man who really doesn't want to get choked out again, and you get a rather odd fight.
I come up with a game plan. I share with nobody. I'm going to use psychology in a way that has never been used before.
Severn doing a lot of moving. Shamrock said he'll be very patient.
I'm going to have this arena hating this match.
It's all movement, no strikes thus far. Neither one wants to make a mistake.
He dances around the outside of the ring for 26 minutes. 26 minutes we're doing this.
We have never seen a fight this long. without some type of engagement.
They couldn't hit each other.
He's talking to me. He's like, come on.
Fans regard this as one of the worst fights in MMA history.
People are booing, they're throwing things. It's the most boring fight in UFC history.
The crowd is chanting boring.
Mr. Shamrock, how are you going to let those people affect you?
The crowd wants to see some rip roaring, and neither athlete.
Then Severn. Bro, they said they couldn't hit with their closed fist. What is this? A kiddie fight? Like, why they even went out there? They would have said, bro, I'm not fighting them. What's not even a fight? Like, the fans blaming them. I don't blame them. I blame the UFC for that. Come on, man. Like, what?
Neither combatant really wants to go in at close range.
He wanted to goad Ken Shamrock into a mistake.
And there goes Severn in on a leg.
Severn's in trouble. He turned the wrong way coming out the back door. Shamrock is in the mount right now. Severn hanging out.
For just over 5 minutes, he actually had a full mount on me and couldn't do anything to me. I'm taking opportunities here. I spin, gave him my back, my tripod on up, and he slides forward.
Severn at the reverse side.
I can't believe that.
Turn sunny side up just to see me. Hi there. Hi there. Hi there. Hi there.
I love this. I ain't gonna lie. That was funny though.
Turn sunny side up just to see me. Hi there. Hi there. Hi there. Hi there.
Big right hand by Severn to Shamrock's face. Another one. And a headbutt from Severn and another. Shamrock's getting popped pretty good in the face and he's bleeding pretty good.
35 minutes was reduced down to 45 seconds of club.
Severn hung in there and he waited, bided his time, and it worked.
He has done more damage in 30 seconds than Ken was able to do in 10 minutes.
That's what that whole match was won by.
There's the horn. It's over. It comes down to the judges.
Severn, the winner.
Dan Severn wins
Dan Severn.
super fight.
I got the victory to revenge something that should not have happened in the very first place.
Look, was it the most exciting fight? Absolutely not. But it takes two to tango.
Hey, at the end, he got right.
Really beat Ken Shamrock. So now, yes, Dan Severn was the UFC's super fight champion, which meant that Dan Severn achieved something no one has ever accomplished in the UFC and never will.
What Dan had done was win all there was to win in the UFC.
I'm the only Triple Crown champion ever in the UFC's no-holds-barred era.
Back then, that was kind of the highest acknowledgement you could have in mixed martial arts.
Dan won a normal UFC tournament, an ultimate, and a super fight championship.
Damn.
That's an astonishing feat. There's really only one more type of gold he hasn't captured in the UFC. But not so fast. After UFC 9, Severn dabbled in other promotions overseas, defeating 4 opponents in a 5-month period to extend his record to 14-2. Dan Severn was really coming into his own as a martial artist, which is actually kind of crazy to say. The guy was already the Triple Crown champ. But remember when I said there was one more kind of gold up for grabs?
I fought Dan to beat Severn for the
Mark Coleman
UFC heavyweight title. Coleman's just a freaking animal. Just an animal.
That's
Legend.
right. Dan Severn would fight the undefeated UFC 10 and 11 tournament winner, Mark the Hammer Coleman, to unify the tournament championship with the super fight title and determine who would become the UFC's first heavyweight champion. You should know that Coleman actually defeated Dan's buddy Don Fry at UFC 10, so Severn had a lot of motivation to avenge his buddy. This is a lot. It's
He
the
did beat
culmination
Don,
of an
huh?
entire sports career leading to that one moment that can validate every decision you've ever made. But before we get to UFC 12, I want to take you on a bit of a journey.
You have amassed a record of 118-7, and that all didn't happen in the UFC. That happened after the UFC, and there were a lot of fights that a lot of the fans didn't get to see.
I'm not picking out my rocking chair anytime soon. I'm staying quite busy involved.
The extent of Dan Severn's career doesn't end at UFC 12. Far from it. He actually has one of the longest and statistically successful fighting careers in the history of mankind.
I'm in a unique category of only 4 people in the world of having over 100 cage fights. Of
That's
only 3
crazy.
people in the world having over 100 victories. I've been competing longer than most of my opponents have been alive. Literally, I'm older than most of my opponents' fathers.
Longevity. How does the moneymaker still look after having in excess of 100 fights right now? It's kind of like the ears still look like ears. The nose is still in the center of the face. Teeth, although a little crooked, still original. I need not say more.
Look, with nearly 130 fights, you'd think Dan was fighting.
He mauled
but
everybody.
That's not the case. Dan fought Kimo Leopoldo, Pat Miletich, Josh Barnett, Forrest Griffin, and even a young and vicious Pedro Hizzo at UFC 27.
Pedro Hizzo is a very good leg kicker.
I mean, his fucking leg kicks were insane.
Pedro threw a couple leg kicks right on my knee joint. My knee actually buckled, and that's where the match got halted.
Goes down. He finishes it quickly.
What many don't know about me is the injuries that I have. Bone chips, bone spurs, cartilage that is mostly gone.
The occasional loss to a legend never deterred Dan Severn. It just motivated him to keep on going out there and keep winning.
It doesn't say anything really against me. If anything, it says something for me for a sheer fact that I've been out there for a multitude of decades. And I'm still, in my mind, still have a goal of 9 more years of what I will be doing.
Not only was Dan highly successful in mixed martial arts, but he also simultaneously made a name for himself in pro wrestling.
You in pro wrestling?
To tell you in front of all these people that you are nothing but scum.
Hannibal the Animal, I'm in your neck of the woods. Come and get me.
Bouncing between two grueling sports can definitely make you a legend. But it
Make
also
your
takes
body?
its toll.
What?
Dan was destroying his body, but more importantly,
What?
he missed out on a lot of time with family and friends due to his pursuit of greatness.
The success was great, but everything comes at a cost.
You know, Father Time, we cannot turn back the clock of Father Time. And with each progressive year, yes, I lose a little bit more and I lose a little bit more.
Dan Severn gave his life to this sport, and he deserves to sit in his rocking chair with a smile on his face. But would he be in that chair, reflecting on the legacy he intended? Could he be a quadruple crown champion? Could he avenge the legacy that was taken from him at the Olympics? Could he be the UFC's first heavyweight champion?
Mark was 265 pounds.
He was a monster.
He was a
Mark Coleman, yeah.
Mark Coleman, 32, and that's a big question mark for Dan Severn at 38, 6 years his senior.
It really was someone young facing an older version of themselves.
Undefeated in the octagon, Mark the Hammer.
I don't remember. I just watched, if y'all want to watch, I watched Mark Coleman already. I don't remember him fighting Dan Severn. I don't think so. I don't remember. But if y'all want to see, go watch that after this video. But
who do you remember hitting you the hardest?
That's easy. I always tell people that Mark Coleman probably hit me the hardest ever.
That right hand scored by Coleman, and a jab from Coleman.
The hard part was that he was also another wrestler. So he was going to have certain attributes that were going to cancel out my attributes.
Severn shoots for a leg.
Now Coleman able to stop that leg shot. That was no problem. Dan really didn't set it up too well.
Mark was the next evolution in the prototype of fighter that Dan Severn had been.
Coleman now on the mount, had the mount momentarily. Severn rolled quickly. Coleman trying to throw a couple of punches to the back of Severn's head.
It really was, a changing of the guard. But it was sort of fitting. Mixed martial arts, if anything, it's always been about evolution. And this was evolution.
He can choke Dan here with this headlock.
He's trying to choke him right now.
And that's
He was the first world heavyweight champion, and he submitted Dan Severn to get that, and that's not an easy feat.
Well, there you have it. Old Dan Severn didn't become the UFC's first heavyweight champion. It's kind of ironic that Dan paved the way for wrestlers in
Mark
MMA,
Coleman
and
submitted
it was one of those
him.
very people following in his footsteps that prevented him from reaching his goal. But as you already know, Dan went on to have years and years and years of longevity in this sport, all the way to his final fight.
I'm approaching my 60th birthday. I have 5 children and 5 grandchildren.
Why is he fighting at 60? What are we talking about? Why?
This will probably be the last time they'll see me in action.
My youngest son, Joseph, is 18. He'll play basketball, but all I know is it's going to be a very humbling experience for me. Father Time has been whispering in my ear for the last few years, and it's time to move on and do other things. Time is very precious to me.
You thank me?
Enough of it to do all the things that I really want to do with my family. Earlier in my career, I lost things that I'll never get back again. The reality is I would rather walk away from it on my terms as opposed to letting some young buck wreck me into retirement and then having health issues the rest of my life.
And time by decision.
legend, a pioneer. I think those are all very just nice ways of saying the old guy on the card. It might be Iron Man, the durable product that has weathered the storm for so many decades as it is right now.
Look, Dan Severn may not have walked away
Gold
with an Olympic
legend,
gold medal
man.
or a UFC heavyweight belt, but his legacy stretches far beyond most men who did. He never stayed down, not after the Olympics, not after Gracie, not after Shamrock, not after anyone. As the first wrestler in the UFC, he carved out an impossible path, winning a tournament, an ultimate, and a super fight championship, becoming the only Triple Crown champion in the sport's history. That's not just a career worth remembering.
That's a fact.
That's a career worthy of the Hall of Fame.
That's a fact.
The UFC is inducting its third member to the UFC Hall of Fame. Would you please help me in welcoming into the octagon for the final time, Dan the Beast Severn.
Dan Severn was the template of what a wrestler could be in mixed martial arts.
Every wrestler in the UFC today owes him a thank you.
I've done things that most amateur wrestlers today will never have ever experienced in their life.
Dan, you've been here from the beginning as the first world-class wrestler to compete in the octagon. You played a huge part in the development of mixed martial arts, and I want to thank you very much for your contribution, and I'm sure all the fans want to send you their love.
For the time where he was consistently in the UFC, he was the most dominant fighter in the world.
I am the only Triple Crown champion from the No Holds Barred era. Who starts a cage fight at 37 and then goes for 20 years beyond that?
That's crazy. That's insane.
To hear, that roar, that crowd, really touched my heart.
So what's next for you? You're in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, you're in the MMA Hall of Fame, you've done it all, you've been in all the major companies. What are you gonna do now?
I represent opportunity for aspiring mixed martial arts, aspiring professional wrestlers. I do make a difference in a lot of people's lives. My message to young people is life kind of throws you curveballs, some dead-end roads, and how do you as a person respond? Do you just lay down and cry and give up? Or you pick yourself up, dust yourself off?
I ain't even gonna lie, bro. I'm just glad he healthy, bro. He left his career healthy. He didn't have no major injuries. We're gonna clap it up for that. Gotta clap it up for that, man. Shout out to Dan Severn, though. Straight legend, man. Legend. Gotta watch him, though. Puts everything in a more perspective with Don Fraud, too. But look, man, like, comment, subscribe. Y'all already know what's going on, man. Let me know in the comments what I'm gonna react to next. And I'm gonna see y'all next one, man. No doubt.